we shouldn't underestimate the danger, the threat of the authoritarian coalition. I call it Eurasian authoritarian coalition because they still use Ukraine as a tool against Western world, and we are already Western world. This is what Chinese, Russians, and their allies cannot understand. And this is I think, the biggest misunderstanding and the biggest mistake, that they attacking and try to destroy not already Ukraine as a part of the former Soviet system. We are already part of the Euro-Atlantic.
Hello and welcome to On the Edge. Our guest this week is Andrey Buzarov. He is originally from Donetsk, and he has a lot of different areas of expertise and experiences. He's been a lawyer, an author, an advisor to the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Rada, the Parliament, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and additionally, a number of other influential groups that are working on Ukraine's behalf. And he travels the world advocating for this country's interests. I hope you'll find this conversation informative and will help you understand what is happening. So, Andrey, thank you very much for joining us today. There's a great number of topics that we could discuss with your various areas of expertise. But one thing we haven't had the opportunity to talk about on the show as much as maybe I would have liked, and let's keep it broad terms here, is the state of the Ukrainian economy. As someone who is an advisor or a consultant, whatever you want to call it, to the British Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, I wonder, what is the state, do you believe, of the Ukrainian economy?
Well, it's a complicated, actually, topic to talk about, because, that we can regard this and then analyze this topic from different perspectives. I see it from both sides, from practical point of view, because, as you mentioned, I'm a consultant and work in the field as a lawyer, and I see the dynamics of attitude of investors towards Ukraine, and also the Ukrainian business situation. And from another perspective, some maybe economical estimates of the situation, because I'm an academician, I'm a researcher, and the economical factor is very important in analyzing the microeconomical situation and geopolitical and national things. So, to cut a long story short, I think that the economical situation, answering your direct question, the situation is unpredictable, because on the other hand, I still see that the capacity in our economy, because we have huge macroeconomical support from European Union first of all, and I think the half of our budget, national budget, is actually different kind of bonds and direct support from European Union. At least it was a tendency during the last 3 years. And also there was a huge part of microeconomical support from United States. And but it was in the past. Now, Now I think that the future of our economy depends on European-Ukrainian relations. And we should strengthen our economical business community relations with European countries. If we speak about the practical point of view, I mean the energy sector, the trade sector. But we also should think strategically if we speak about the relations with United States and English-speaking world, and British community or English-speaking community, I would say, is Neil Ferguson always used English-speaking world in the sense of Five Eyes, the Great Britain, United States, Australia, and New Zealand. And I think the 100-year agreement with Great Britain is very important is a key to English-speaking world. We can start to use our free trade agreement. I think a few people know in Ukraine that it was adopted in 2020. Before full-scale invasion, we have free trade agreement with Great Britain. And as far as I know, Trump administration also encourages a free trade agreement, at least the preparation of this agreement with Ukraine. And there was some news about it. So we strategically have good perspective. Also, regarding the subsoil deal, I'm very, very supportive of this deal. I think that it's a unique reflection of the, let's say, neorealistic approach towards Ukrainian-American relation. I think strategically we are already part of the Euro-Atlantic economical community. So strategically, I can give you more facts in the sense of the strategy, but we are we are talking now here in July, in the summer of 2025, and we see the reality outside the window, the attacks of Russia against our infrastructure sector. We see the not good dynamics in demographics. A lot of people still try to go out of Ukraine. We see not good tendency in our tax system. We see not good tendency in the anti-corruption system. You know what I'm talking about. I see the politicization of some process. So the economical, there are a lot of factors which define complicated. I would say we are on the eve of default, using the economical terms. But default or other potential bankruptcy, it's not mean disaster. It's I think, challenge for us, for Ukrainians and for our allies, for our foreign friends who are in Ukraine as you are. But the complicated economical situation is not fault of Ukraine, it's fault of indirect consequences of Russian aggression. So one of the reasons why Russia tried to destabilize our economy, one of them, let's say, I will rephrase, one of the targets of Russia was destroying our economy, because it's part of the strategy of Russia to destroy Ukrainian state.
Right.
So I think that Russia contributed a lot during, I think, last 6 months, because they targeted specifically infrastructure, the economical routes. They started to attack the railway, logistic routes. It was actually for the first time when they targeted specifically the logistic routes to cut our economical potential. So they destroyed a lot because they wanted to provoke this economical potential disaster. But I think that the Euro-Atlantic community, first of all, European Union, if you speak about current situation, did a lot, and they should do more to support our national resilience if we speak about the economy. Because I think that now we are on the eve of the potential, as I mentioned, default. But we should prepare, as one my British colleague said, economical Rammstein for Ukraine. But it's figurative meaning. When I was in London 2 years ago, I interviewed Timothy Ash, the very famous economical scientist and researcher and businessman in London, and he said that we already should prepare the economical Rammstein of Ukraine. It was 2 years ago.
And by Rammstein, it's the kind of a multinational
in the meaning of the
grouping of nations, that come together.
Plan. Because
action plan.
Rammstein is more about defense, which is
military.
Existentially important.
Still very, very obviously very important.
But practically, there should be some kind of analog or some kind of
almost like a Marshall Plan.
Exactly. But Rammstein, because they use it more, the experts more in the meaning of the narratives which exist now. Because Marshall,
I would consider Rammstein more of a forward-looking organization, whereas the Marshall Plan was a recovery plan from the devastation of the Second World War. So Rammstein's more about like what can we do before we get to a
Practical
crisis point.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So thank you for that. How there's an ongoing issue, and perhaps I'm going to tap into your geopolitical strategist mentality. There is a changing dynamic of the triangle that exists between the European Union, the United States of America, and Ukraine. And much of it is the new administration in Washington wanting to withdraw from Europe, or at least decrease its interactivity, its connection to Europe. The European Union looking at that and realizing that they're going to have to pick up more of the support. And then, of course, Ukraine, which is at the forefront of this resistance to Putin and other autocracies. Where do you see these three groups moving together? Where are we going?
Well, using geopolitical approach for analysis of current situation, I always try to understand and read the American geostrategists like Friedman and other people, because I think these scientists know geopolitics better than a European and Ukrainian. But we know situation better from Ukrainian perspective, because a lot of geostrategists who are very far from Ukraine, or even in Europe, they never visited Ukraine, or maybe we were in Ukraine several times. By the way, when I was in Oxford with some private visit, I met a lot of people who wrote a lot of articles about Ukraine, but they were in Ukraine last time 20 years ago, or even before Yanukovych. But they wrote a lot of articles. I said, guys, what are you writing about? So it's some kind of information and academical problem in Western world to speak about Ukraine.
Yes, I know.
And you know it.
Lots of people sitting in offices and academic boardrooms and school classrooms and university classrooms pontificating about Ukraine, but they've never been here.
Exactly. But you are here and you know the situation. If we try to use Western methodology towards Ukrainian experience, I always use this formula to understand. We see that this geopolitical shift in the world has controversial consequences for Ukraine. It's some kind of negative tendency. On the other hand, it's an opportunity. And we always, if we speak seriously about geopolitics, we always have to take in regard that the American-Chinese long-term geopolitical battle. It's a main mega trend in the world. The second thing is European security. And here Ukraine actually the main topic, because as I mentioned, 100-year agreement with Great Britain, it means the new age of European security. And you know that we have a very serious contradiction when we speak about Euro-Atlantic, European security and post-Soviet security. So I, as an academician, as an expert, I don't imagine European security without Euro-Atlantic security. For me, European security is the integrative part of Euro-Atlantic security, where still there is very, very supportive position towards Ukraine of Canada. And the Canadian position does not depend on political or personal factor. I mean, it's totally based on values, on long-term support of Ukraine, which is because of morality and moral incentives and values.
And the historical ties. I mean, Canada, the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. I used to work for the CBC occasionally as a journalist. And so I would always get a call from Toronto or, saying, we want to talk about this. And I would be surprised as to why. And I eventually did learn of the great ties between Ukraine and Canada, and they're very strong ties.
The Canadian-Ukrainian relations based on values and, as you said, on history. The same with Great Britain. The support of Great Britain is based on the question of justice and values, and we have bi-party support in Great Britain. So I can analyze all the countries actually, but regarding their national interest and the reasons, the motivation of their support. Generally, we can divide all the countries on two main groups. If we speak about, for example, Euro-Atlantic support of Ukraine, it's moral or values things and the national interest. The country who still support Ukraine, Canada, Great Britain, Lithuania, Estonia, Norway, Poland, this I call it Three Seas initiatives from Great Britain to Black Sea. They mostly support Ukraine because of the values. Lithuania, Estonia is former Soviet countries, Soviet republics, and because of security. This is Great Britain initiative. We speak about national interest. I think it's Trump's United States classical example. So the paradox and the situation with the United States is controversial, but for people who know international relations, it's not a problem, because we still have support from the United States, but approach towards this support in the stage of changing. So the Democrats support Ukraine because of the values, because of democracy, because of neoliberal history, because Ukraine was the best example of the democratized country in the post-Soviet space. I would say, I think the only one example. To be honest,
maybe the Baltics a little bit.
No, except Baltics. You're right, because they are already integrated in the European. We speak about the post-Soviet space, and the Democrats from the Democratic Party of the United States was very supportive of the Euro modernization of Ukraine towards the Euro-Atlantic values and the democratic values. But to speak about Republicans and their foreign policy, strategy, and doctrine, they were all very pragmatic, and we see. Trump, he did not change completely the approach toward Ukraine. He did not stop support of Ukraine. He did not say to other Americans, okay, Americans, get out from Ukraine. You should come back to California or to United States, and we should forget about Ukraine. No, he didn't say like this. But he tried to use the information field, the economical tools to influence not only on Ukraine, but also on Europe.
Well, we just saw him in Scotland
yes.
with Ursula von der Leyen there. What a bizarre press conference that was. And they've apparently hashed out this economic plan, which will keep America and Europe connected, but with a little bit more of an advantageous posture for the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And there is two factors, very important factors which important for us here in Kiev. This understanding, attempt to understand the relation of Trump towards European Union, the relations of Trump towards Great Britain, and the relations of Trump, this third factor, towards Ukraine. It's two different,
all interconnected.
Yeah, we can write a scientific article on three topics.
Yes.
And actually, Trump came to one of his historical homeland, his mother.
That's right.
By the way, I saw some of her interviews when she was alive, and she was really Scottish, classical Scottish. Even with accent, she was speaking with a classical Scottish accent. So Trump came to one of his historical homelands, and I always try to understand his communication with Starmer, with Great Britain. So it's also complicated because they still have problems with the trade. And they signed the transatlantic agreement, but with some not good tendencies for Great Britain. So Trump even used Great Britain as a tool, I would say, in his geopolitical strategy. The same situation with European Union. The facts which you mentioned, this is just examples of the historical process. So the relation of Trump, of United States, Trump's era, and the European Union are not formed now. So they are in the process. And the security factor, economical factor, energy factor is just the part of this process. Ukraine is a personal thing, I think, personal aspect, personal question for Trump. because we are not part of European Union, Ukraine, but we are going there. And Great Britain also not part of European Union. So we two wings, actually, the Great Britain and Ukraine, who are from different sides of European Union. And in this sense, we are very important, Ukraine and Great Britain, for deterrence, for deterrence of Russia. It's Russian expansion towards Europe. So I think for national security, for Trump's conception of America first, if we speak seriously about this conception, and for American perspectiveness, even within the new strategy of United States during the Trump era, Ukraine is still very important. And we have to understand it. But the approach is changing. So Trump he doesn't want to use the question of values and other things. He used economical approach. Subsoil deal, I understand what does it mean. So he means he understands what does it mean. Let's attach Ukraine to the economical Euro-Atlantic community. And I think it was a very wise step to find such kind of compromise between two states.
Well, and now even on the strategic level, we're looking at him, the Trump administration, wanting to be more transactional from whatever coffer, European Union or Ukraine itself, to buy the weapons from America.
Yeah, it's a model which you used in the United States foreign policy after the Second World War many times, and I can give you the examples of Saudi Arabia, when the Saudis bought the weapon from the United States, but it doesn't mean that the United States should send troops defend Saudi Arabia. So it's pragmatic relations. And this model quite acceptable. By the way, the Israeli model, very, very perspective for Ukraine. If you speak about the Middle East and some historical examples, I think that Ukraine in the future should follow the Israeli model in the sense that a lot of enemies around, and we can build good relations with one partner, for example, United States, but not to ignore the other partners in the region, because Israel had good relations with some Arabic countries. I mean, we should not ignore the interests of European Union, because in European Union there are a lot of allies. I think the total majority of European Union members are our allies, except some political groups.
Yeah, well, who are beholden to Moscow.
Yeah.
One of the things that made many in the European Union express concern were these recent protests around the country, where people took to the streets to express their anger about the new bill in the RADA, the anti-corruption bill. And we could talk about the intricacies of the bill if you want, but I wonder what you think it means that the European Union said to the Zelensky administration and to Kiev, this gives us concern. We know you want to be part of the EU. If you go down this road, it's going to make it more difficult. What do you think?
Well, it's a very, very simple question, and for understanding for the people who know the history of this question. I want to say, before answering your question, two important aspects. First, actually, the post-Soviet aspect, let's say, or process of transit democratization of transit period, as we call it in political science. I mean, the Ukraine after 1991 was in transition from post-Soviet, not even from totalitarian state towards new state. It was a social transit, and one of the key contributors in this social transit was foreign friends, United States, mostly Democrats, and European countries, Lithuania, France, Germany, other countries, who gave a lot of money, who share a lot of experience in democratic building process. And this process, one of the, I would say, results of this process was one of the target of Russia, because the destroying of the transition period, let's say the democratization process of Ukraine, was one of the targets of Russia historically.
Mm-hmm.
And during last 12 years after the starting of Russian aggression in February 2014, the Ukraine showed resilience towards Euro-Atlantic democratic world and showed some success in democratization, let's say democratic, in a very, very diplomatic way. But the success was controversial, but it was. And a lot of people who helped us in this process, they understood and understand that it was one of the biggest achievements for Ukraine. It was one of the main targets for Putin's Russia.
Well, Putin's Russia wanted to keep the status quo of corruption in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Europeans and a large percentage of Ukrainian population
exactly.
wanted to get away from corruption because it's a drag on your country.
Yeah,
I've been coming here for nearly 30 years.
I will give you one.
Corruption's a huge problem.
Yeah, I will give you one proof of your thesis, and then I go to my conclusion about the corruption topic. I remember in 2018, Ben Cardin, the senator, published a huge report about the corruption in post-Soviet countries. Still, you can, the people who will listen us, watch us, they can open this huge report analysis of the corruption in post-Soviet countries, including Ukraine. And he said that Senator Ben Cardin mentioned that the corruption process and the corruption as a phenomenon was one of the main tools of control by Russia the governments of a lot of people. So when we speak about Ukraine, one of the biggest achievements of the Euro-Atlantic integration, let's say, or integration of Ukraine into Euro-Atlantic communities, I use community. This is very important thing. Community in the sense of the common values, not just political thing, but values.
And the ideals of the rule of law.
Exactly. Democratic, anti-corruption system. So it was one of the main achievements. And when we see now this clashes inside our Ukrainian political system between NABU and other security borders, it was, I think, interpreted as a step against or regress on the path of democratization by some politicians in Europe and even in Ukraine, by our civil society. So they perceived it as a step against rule of law. And I think I don't want to speak a lot about the political aspects of this thing because I think there are a lot of behind the scene. But if you speak about democratization, the anti-corruption bodies was created as a part of this democratic transition. And for the foreign investors, for the recovery process, and for the potential economical partners who now try to help us, this is actually was your main question about economic, because I think the foreign investors and our economical partners realize that this war may continue. So we should speak about the restoration recovery plan within war period. That's why I gave you the example of Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
Or also the Rammstein. Kind of.
So that's why we need the investors in the military complex. If you speak about drone factories, we need the investors in the rehabilitation of soldiers. We need the investors to building the rehabilitation centers. We need the rehabilitation economical support for adaptation of soldiers. We need the new program of the integration of the soldiers into the economical and the social life, as you have the same United States had after Second World War and the Vietnam War. So we need a new conception of the economical model within potential continuation of war, and it depends totally on our foreign investors, foreign partners from Europe and from United States, or maybe from South Korea or from Japan, because they are willing to help us. And I know I had a lot of and have a lot of contacts with the investors from the democratic, let's say, world. They're ready to start invest even now, but they want to see there's some kind of guarantees. That's why, answering your question, I think that this anti-corruption borders problem was a signal towards our foreign partners that something is wrong. That's why there was a huge reaction, and we saw it in the information from different.
Well, this is another aspect of it that, and it's so great that you have so many different areas of expertise, because I think it's also important to discuss that this was used by Russia and those who are what is often referred to as a useful idiot of Moscow to say, aha, you see, Zelensky is a dictator. Ukraine is not a democracy, and these people have taken to the streets to fight against the tyranny of Zelensky. I didn't get that impression at all here in Kiev. I know people were angry, but I don't think it was Zelensky is becoming a dictator. He's going to be Putin. He's going to turn Kiev into the Kremlin.
Phil, we are already in Europe.
But the propaganda war was full scale.
We are already in Euro-Atlantic community.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I try to explain from the scientific expert point of view. In my personal circle, when I speak with my friends, even Ukrainians, and which I try to share with people through the media, social media and the national media, and also which I try to share with business partners. It's complicated to explain, to be honest, because the people still use these things like, we are not a member of European Union, we are not a member of NATO, we are not a member of, means that we are not a member of nothing. But I said, no, wait, you see a lot of people here from Europe, from United States. They are here not just because somebody called them and said, okay, Phil, you should go to Kiev and live there 3 years. It's a result of the perception of Ukraine as a democratic country, or at least a country who wants to be democratized, and that a result of perception, Ukraine is a country from the European civilization, not from other types of civilization. And I think this clash of civilizations, which we see now, it's not just a question of the values; it's a question of the systems, democratic or authoritarian.
Yes,
I think this is actually the point of this clash of civilization.
Well, if you look at Russia's national emblem of the double-headed eagle, one head looks east and one head looks west. It is part of their schizophrenia, if you will. Not exactly the correct term, but nevertheless, Ukraine has none of that. Ukraine is firmly self-identifying as European. There's absolutely no question of that. But before we move away completely from the recent street protests and that controversy, is again to press upon, and I'd like a little more input about Ukraine needs support from the international community. Part of that support is going to come from the perception of what Ukraine is. That's why the information war is so intense. Talk to me a little bit about what you see happening with Russia and Moscow trying to manipulate and to spread disinformation and lies about Ukraine so that support drops off.
Well, it's very, very, very understandable situation for me why Russia tried to do it. It's because of I think the Putin and his advisors, and let's say all the military government of Russia understood and understands that that this war strategically will be their lost, and they see that they actually failed twice in 2008, 2014 when they tried to destabilize the south and the east of Ukraine, but they failed. They failed second time when they tried to get so-called blitzkrieg, quick war, and they failed. Now they tried to use their third attempt, using to get to use this third attempt using the internal clashes between Ukrainians.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the on front line, the huge resistance and the organized, interconnected, I would say, organized by Ukrainian army, by strong civil resilience, and also with the help of our Western allies, this overwhelming, resilient or resistant shield of Europe works.
Mm-hmm.
And despite there are some success of Russians, Neopokrovsk, Konstantinokov, we know about this, but it's not huge as they think, and they actually, as they interpret it in their Russian-speaking world, because we see the Russian propaganda, we know how they use some achievements as a huge achievement. So every step which Russia did in Kharkiv region, in Donbass, in Kherson, in Sumy, is a huge loss for their army, for even for their economical system. So I think that the only tool which Russia may use now is try to use the internal factor, the internal destabilization, or to influence on our
put
internal
pressure. Definitely try to put pressure
using different tools, the hybrid attacks, to killing some people here, to use the manipulations to organize some assassination of some people in Ukraine, which we saw already. So the Russians may use a lot of things to influence on Ukrainian society, because they don't need to use soft power. They used Ukraine as their part of their former influence, and they have a lot of soft power here, using the term soft power in the neoliberalistic meaning. I mean the soft power Russia. This is the church, the language, and other things, which are also very controversial, because my native language is Russian, and I still use it everywhere. But there is a delicate border between Russian influence and the tools of Russia influence and the Ukrainian identity.
Well, I think if you were to go to Dublin and walk into St. Stephen's Green and say you're English because you're speaking English, you might find people who would disagree with you.
I understand what you're talking about. So I just want you to say that Russia has a lot of tools how to influence our internal situation, and they want to use it because they understand that they will not get Ukraine through the front. And I think they want to destabilize. And they have now this 6 months period, maybe 4 months period, because there is a geopolitical disturbance. We still don't have understanding from the European what will be the model of our, let's say, new foreign support instead of Rammstein, or maybe within Rammstein. And Russia used these negotiations with Trump, with China, even maybe with some Europeans like Orban and others, to pressure Ukraine. So if you analyze the number of the attacks by drones against Kiev, if you analyze the targets of these attacks, if you analyze the scale of these attacks, you see that they intensified during last 3 months. You know it. And
I've had enough sleepless nights. I know.
Exactly. So they pressure. The main target is to cut, to beat our resilience, which is still huge.
Yeah.
And I think Russia understands that the scale of Ukrainian resilience is huge, and they try to use our internal situation. And you just mentioned this anti-corruption information wave, which was provoked by our internal political situation, but they use it in their narrative, and they unfortunately put it into some European information agenda, which was also used by some, as you said, useful idiots in some among some political groups in Europe. I'm not speaking about the critical points from the European institutions towards our government. I speak about the use, how the information was used by some people in Slovakia, in Hungary, in Austria, even in some...
in the far right, in Germany or France.
Exactly.
Or
I call it this far right or far left, I don't know how they call them, groups.
Funded all by the Kremlin, of course. Before we get off of this question, because I think you're right. I think that the Russians realize that they are going to have a very difficult military campaign. But if they can divide and conquer in Ukraine or change the perception in the international world of what Ukraine is, then they might get more success there. Because, and I'd like your response to this, their objective, Moscow's objective, Vladimir Putin's objective, among other things, but primarily is regain control of the northern shore of the Black Sea so that you can have your Black Sea fleet based at Sevastopol. That's never going to happen as long as Ukraine has Odessa, because Odessa can always threaten Sevastopol.
Yeah.
And the other major objective is to change Kiev to a government that is more pro-Moscow. I don't think they can achieve either of those goals. I really don't think they have the capacity to do it. I've been to Odessa many times since the full-scale engagement. It is a fortress. There are cities lined out through Donetsk, Kramatorsk, Kupiansk, these, God forbid, Kharkiv, that will cost them countless more casualties. They struggle to get Chasiv Yar.
Yeah.
How are they going to take Kramatorsk? Kramatorsk is a fortress. What is your impression of what the Russians might be able to achieve when it comes to
I think the missiles and drones. I think missiles and drones is a huge challenge for Ukraine.
But that's about breaking the spirit of Ukraine as much as...
I think it's more terror.
Yeah.
It's more terror. It's one of the tools that they try to use the frontline situations. They try to show our achievements in the front line as for their propaganda, and also for their allies as a huge achievement. And also they use the terror, the terror, not only against the Kyiv, but look how they broaden the geography of their attacks.
Well, we've done a number of episodes about Kherson.
Lutsk, Kirovograd. They try to use
the human safari in Kherson is all about terror.
Yeah. The problem of your question is that unfortunately there is a very clear geopolitical dimension in this conflict. I'm not speaking about these things like United States, Russia, geopolitical game. It's okay, but if we speak about other things which are more practical for the front line, we can see that when our troops had a very huge success in 2022. In the counteroffensive, and in 2023, on the eve of our offensive, or during our offensive in Kherson, in Kharkiv, the other countries always helped Russia. So, there were a lot of critics about why Americans or other countries did not give us more weapons. Yes, maybe to some extent it was right, justified, critics, but during the most successful operations which we had in the counteroffensive, always came the countries who helped to Russia. If we speak about, for example, 2022, when we had very successful counteroffensive in Kherson and in Kharkiv, the Iran helped Russians. They gave them drones, missiles, and Russia won time. When we had a very good, I think it was a very preventive strike. We made preventive strike in Kursk, very successful. Then North Korea came, who is ally of China. When the Russians prepared their full-scale invasion, Belarus helped them in preparing, because they gave them their soil, their entrance.
Yeah.
Now we see the China is very active in supporting economically, let's say, Russia. So these allies, or not allies, it's like satellites of Russia.
Coalition,
yeah, of authoritarian countries. They help always Russia during the critical, let's say, points. And this is a balance of power. So when Russia hit us, Rammstein appeared with a huge support. Because Rammstein is it's not only about United States. The Rammstein financial support from United States was only half. The other half was from other countries. It's not only Europe, because now South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand also members of Rammstein Fund. So
the Taiwanese have great interest.
Yeah, we call it Pacific, part. So we see that the support of Ukraine is global, but the support of Russia also is global. If we speak about the authoritarian regimes, so we don't know who will be the next if they will be in the list of the countries who will support Russia. Or we don't know now so far what will be the future, but the nearest model. And I think we don't have a lot of time, to be honest. The nearest future, the new updated model, I don't know how to say it correctly, but you understand the meaning. If we speak about the new model of support of Ukraine. So what is, I see the features, I see the positive sides, the subsoil deal with United States, the 100-year agreement with with Great Britain. I see the 28 agreement on security cooperation with European and NATO countries. I see the G7 support. I see that huge humanitarian support on the level of usually on the level of the human relations. I see a lot of support from Pacific countries like Japan and South Korea. So I don't see that somebody will abandon Ukraine, because we are already part of European Atlantic support. But we shouldn't underestimate the danger, the threat of the authoritarian coalition. I call it Eurasian authoritarian coalition, because they still use Ukraine as a tool against Western world, and we are already Western world. This is what Chinese, Russians, and their allies cannot understand, and this is I think, the biggest misunderstanding and the biggest mistake, that they attacking and try to destroy not already Ukraine as a part of the former Soviet system. We are already part of the Euro-Atlantic.
Do you think the Europeans understand that as well?
In Europe, it's another topic for discussion. In Europe, I think we have already a clear support, long-term support from Great Britain, from Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Finland.
But do they understand that Ukraine is no longer part of the former Soviet Union?
They 100, because I think that the readiness to create some kind of new model of, new security model with Ukraine, it's already a reflection of their readiness. But we talk with you only about some countries of European Union.
Well, again, there are a couple of fissures there that have been, influenced by Kremlin money.
Yeah, I hope that
or power brokering.
Yeah, and we already saw the shift. Good indicators in changing of the security policy of Europe. Remember that 4 years ago, Finland and Sweden, they didn't want to be members of NATO, but 2 months after the full-scale invasion, they mobilized all their political strengths, and then they initiated a referendum, and the society said yes, Sweden and Finland want to be the member of European Union, not a member of NATO.
A member of NATO, yeah.
3 days ago, there is a new information from Austria that Austria want to be the member of NATO. So I think there is a shift in security.
What I find difficult sometimes trying to explain to my audience is that, when we talk about Moscow getting more powerful, and if Moscow is successful in Ukraine, I don't think it's going to be successful in Ukraine. But hypothetically, let's say that Russia succeeds whatever success means in Ukraine. They don't have to, if they are successful in Ukraine, they don't have to roll tanks down the Champs-Élysées. They don't have to have battleships, pull up in Northampton Dock in the UK. It is the undue influence that they will be able to exert on Europe by threat.
Well, there are two different dimensions of this war in the sense of security for Europe and for Ukraine. For Ukraine, it's existential war.
Mm-hmm.
So the question of be or not to be, using the William Shakespeare thing. If we speak about Europe, it's a challenge. When I was in Cambridge, I made an interview with Brendan Sims. He's a very famous British geopolitical thinker, head of the Center of Geopolitics in Cambridge University, and asked him the same question. What does it mean, this war for Europe? He said, it's a challenge. It's very, very, very deep meaning of this world, but I understand it now, 3 years later, after my interview with him. I understand that it's challenge. And challenge, it means for everything, values and security. And I think that the loss of Ukraine, and I think the majority of European elites and the people understand that the potential loss of Ukraine, victory of Russia, in any kind of sense, because we did not touch today the question, what does it mean loss? What does it mean victory?
Yeah, well, this is
another thing.
Yeah,
but
we'll have to have you back.
Thank you. In all kind of aspects or meanings of these words, the loss of Ukraine would bring Russia towards the borders to European Union, which means serious security problems, and it will persuade the other countries like Turkey, like Baltic countries, Asian countries, African countries, South American countries, to become more closer to Russia. So it will change significantly the balance of powers. And it will create a new challenge, very dangerous, existential challenge for Western world.
Yeah.
And I think the majority of elites and the people, ordinary people, already understand it in Europe, first of all. Because in the United States, the support of society is huge, still huge, despite all these political battles, let's say. And it means that the United States and the English-speaking world is very supportive of Ukraine. And it's very important. It's a very important signal for Ukrainians. And it's a signal for Russians, for their allies. And I think that the withdrawal of Russia from Syria, partial withdrawal from Syria, the Israeli-American, we can say it, war against Iran, and the weakness of Russia in Azerbaijan, in Karabakh, even in Armenia.
Well, even the street protests in Tbilisi.
Yeah, I think that we witnessed the new weakness and political withdrawal of Russia from South Caucasus.
Yeah.
We witness it. So
they've got the Dagestani problem, the English problem, Ossetians.
So if you change, if you compare what was in 2015, when Russia signed with Ukraine this Minsk agreement, and Russia interfered Syrian issues, and now you will see how Russia weakened economically and politically and geopolitically. So I think that it's a very, very direct consequences of their useless and absolutely dangerous for Russians war against Ukraine.
How bad do you think it is for Russia? I mean, there's always this talk of like, oh, Russia's going to be on economic collapse next week, or, Putin is going to be chucked out of a window by people who are upset with him, or how bad do you think it is for Russia on the other side of the equation?
Well, the problem is that we don't know what will be with Russia after Putin. And the people who know Russian civilization, Russian state system, the Eurasian civilization knows that they know that I know Russian history very good, that the future of Russia, all forms of Russian state system always were unpredictable.
Yeah.
and we don't know what will be during the Putin era, the next years, and what will be after Putin. It's a new challenge for West. But what I know for sure, that Ukraine will not be part of the Russian influence, despite who will be in Russia.
You're always going to have to be neighbors, though, unfortunately.
Well, it's a question of the same situation with Israel and Arab countries.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't think he's. I mean, if Russian history is any indication, I mean, this is the most disastrous failure of a Russian leader since. I mean, I think it's even worse than
Afghanistan.
No, I'll go farther back. I think it's even worse than Nicholas in the Russo-Japanese War or the involvement in the First World War. They have lost Ukraine. They are not going to get Ukraine back. And as Lenin said, Ukraine is the cornerstone of Russian empire. There will be no Soviet empire, so no Soviet Union without a Soviet Ukraine. I mean, he knew. So I think this is absolutely disastrous. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. It's been very gracious of you to give as much as you already have. So let me ask you two quick questions. One is kind of just out of what we call left field. How important is Ukraine's relationship with what is called the Global South?
Well, it's a battlefield between the United States and China. And I think that Global South is represented now by BRICS, which is not correctly.
No.
I think the BRICS is just a part of the organization which represent Global South, but another part of Global South is countries like India, who took the democratic model from West. And I think the Ukraine has a huge potential in developing relations with countries who are members of Global South. If we speak about the same democratic models, using the theory of democratic models, like, for example, we can develop very good and quick and successful relations with India, with South Africa.
Well, and I've heard it said any country that has a larger neighbor that would take a Russian victory here as clearance to then I'm bigger, so I get to take you. If you're someone in the Global South who has a aggressive or potentially aggressive bigger neighbor,
I think
you don't want the precedent started.
I think we should follow the strategy of our allies in the Global South. Look how the Americans, the Brits, operate there, Europe operates there, and we have very good models, examples, which we can use for our foreign policy. And you know that our president visited South Africa. They signed some potential good agreements. Our president visited already a lot of countries which are members of South or Global South. So I do believe.
And he had a meeting with Modi
several times
at the side of a couple of different conferences.
Modi, and I do believe that we have huge potential in economical sector, which is important, with Global South, because a lot of Global South, they rivals of China, and China still is our main trade partner. In import, we have still China, and I think that the next decade in the geopolitics will be decade of the geopolitical battle between Western world and the let's say authoritarian system of the Eurasian. So it means that the logistics and economical routes will change, and we should very quickly change our economical business future model with this trend, and we should use the opportunity now to strengthen our economic relations with European countries and also with English-speaking world, because I think the potential is huge in trade with English-speaking world. Let's say with Five Eyes, despite all the distance, but we have very good potential, and we should use it. You use Black Sea. You use other routes. We have very good relations now with Romania. Despite some problems with Poland, with Slovakia and Hungary, we have good relations with Romania. And I do believe that using this theory of allies between small countries, we can We can organize good relations with Lithuania, with Baltic countries.
A new Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth?
Oh, I think without Great Britain, without Scandinavian countries, it's complicated to get something new.
Well, last question then, and it's maybe we border on the philosophical here, but where do you see Ukraine on the global stage after this war? What would you like to see? What do you think is possible? Whether it's geopolitics or the global marketplace, what is this country called Ukraine going to be after this war?
Well, Ukraine already is global trend, and Ukraine is not just part of international system. It's already a mega trend. You mentioned that you have a last philosophical question. I did not say you that my first PhD is in social philosophy and philosophy and history. And unfortunately, I can talk a lot about all these things because my second now PhD or postdoctoral research is in political studies. But first is philosophy, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. And I think that the Ukraine, first, it's mega trend. Second, it's a European security, part of the European security. Third, it's a part of the Euro-Atlantic values. And third, it's an example for post-Soviet countries, all post-Soviet countries, which they can follow if they want to be democratic. Mm-hmm. So Ukraine, it's a unique phenomenon in the world history. And I cannot compare our situation with another examples after the Second World War. A lot of people try to understand the situation, but it's complicated to get the same examples. I think we have unique situation here. What I think very serious challenge for Ukrainians is not, we shouldn't underestimate the Eurasian aspect. I mean, we shouldn't underestimate the threat from Moscow and their allies, and we shouldn't overestimate the level of support from West. We should be very realistic, and I think the realism in this war taught Ukrainians to be more realistic in the situation, and it's actually very serious. So we witness new political, I would say, and political nation building in Ukraine. This is what I see. And this is a brand for international relations. Ukraine is a global brand and example.
Well, I'm sure you're too far polite to say what I will say as an American, and that is as our democracy comes under duress.
Under attack.
That every day that I'm here in Ukraine, I'm reminded that there are ideals and values worth fighting for. And I think that Ukraine has been despite some very serious difficulties, as a certain 13 colony, as they tried to unify into a country and forge a future with these ideals, that Ukraine has been a shining example, and I am privileged to be here.
Thank you.
It has been a great period in my life to stand side by side with the people of Ukraine. So thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. I hope that my audience finds it advantageous and informative. If there's anything else you would like to say before we go?
I just want to say that thank you for your support. And thanks for your audience, for your support. I, as a journalist with 11 years experience, and even more than 11 years experience, I can say that you and your audience, you are very important for us, because you try to promote the right narratives to the Western audience, to English-speaking world. You try to build real bridges. I personally, I don't understand Western civilization. Despite I know language, I know a lot of languages, foreign languages, including the French language, German, but I don't understand Western civilization. I try to, let's say, adjust some, but I don't understand it. I think we are in transition period. So Western civilization, and I think it's very important that you try to build these roots between civil society, media society, business society. This is the basement for future political decisions, not in contrary. We should build this basement if you speak about the real values and real integration.
Well, it's not going to be easy, but I have every faith that you'll make it there eventually. And so that's why we're not going anywhere. And we're going to push back against Moscow's disinformation and with the help of people like you.
Thank you.
Andrey Buzarov, thank you very much for coming and being on The Edge this week. It was a great conversation. Thank you.